Good evening. Welcome to a fun edition of Cat Space. I'm Kat. With me is my delicious Philly cheese buckets. Luna and Leon, our family members. Hi, guys. Good evening.
Hello.
I am already cringing at the advances that you've already made to Phil already in this episode.
I know it's called me Philly cheese. I love cheese, but I think I'm way cheesier than that. To be honest.
Or cheese than a Philadelphia cheesesteak or whatever they call it.
So, tonight, well, hello to our new subscribers and current subscriber viewers. Tonight, we are doing, I fainted. We are doing something deliciously fun for all of you. We did this, I think, last year. We are revisiting this. I would have this down, but I don't want to stop recording. Maybe we should just quickly pull it down in case this doesn't work out.
The audience likes things that are pulled up.
Give me
Haven't you heard what porn actually is?
There we go, in case that doesn't work out. But tonight we are discussing the Simpsons and their predictions that actually did come true. Oh, I don't have the lights on. Okay. I need the lights. Yes, please. Yes, maybe. Let's start. I haven't written questions. I've only done them in bullet points. Okay, so the first one is, as Luna said, in one of the episodes when Lisa has her fortune told, she marries or gets engaged to a British guy who you see him wearing a smartwatch. But before that incident, the Jetsons, when the Jetsons used to have the smartwatch and the screen as well. So
maybe they got it off the Jetsons. Who knows?
Maybe. What do you guys think?
Actually, there's been like a few shows that have taken the smartwatch on. Star Trek was one of them. No, I'm not a massively huge Star Trek. I love Star Wars more than I like Star Trek. But even though I'm smart enough to know that it was Star Trek that it came up with the original smartwatch, and if you even want to go even further than that, you could think of Inspector Gadget because they had a smartwatch as well.
Yeah, so we're expecting the Jetsons. Were the Simpsons foretelling smartwatches before they actually, became a thing? Leon.
Okay, so yeah, I'll go back to the Inspector Gadget bit because I'm actually a huge fan of Inspector Gadget. I've got pretty much every episode of the old series over here on DVD. I would go back as far as the Jetsons for video calls like Skype and Zoom. I'd go back as far as that because they foretold the video conference. Inspector Gadget was more founder of the Apple Watch kind of thing where he would get video messages and stuff like that. Actually, no, it'd be Penny, if I remember right. Wasn't it Penny was the one that was wearing the watch, the smartwatch?
Or smartwatch. But even then, she had sort of a calculator pencil case that was a lot like an iPad.
A computer book as well, which could override just about everything, which shows you how bad security was back in the 1980s. But the Simpsons one with the smartwatch was one of those ones. But also with the video phones that they used in that particular episode that you're talking about, they had the old style analog dial thingy at the front where you actually dialed the number with the old analog thing and it would come up on the screen. So a little bit of adding on to that one.
Yeah, what about you, Luna? Do you remember on The Simpsons how they actually told the whole, smartwatch?
Yeah. So theoretically, I guess the idea of a smart device has been around for a long time, and the blueprint of the design, do you know what I mean? It comes off unless it's some sort of magical, mystical alien world that we could not travel to in this time of age. It's a lot of these technological devices they used to draw or predict about the future. They were all devices that theoretically could be true. So while I think, yeah, exactly. While I think that yes, the Simpsons have predicted a lot about technology. At the same time, they really are just predicting the natural progression of evolution of technology. Pretty soon, we're going to have a little chip that comes over our eye, and that will be our screen, and everything will be done. It'll project out a little hologram out here, and you'll be able to, let me call this person beep beep, and then it will die on your ears. There'll be things like that,
Reality.
and you'll see that throughout many cartoons and throughout that type of demographic, that when they talk about the future, even the Jetsons, flying cars type thing, machines that cook your food, stuff like that. That stuff will all exist. We just don't have the AI coding or technology to create it just yet, but it's coming. So while I think it's a prediction, yes, I also think it's a bit of an assumption,
Can I
bit of a
say that?
generalization.
Can I please say something? That
Yeah.
a mini plane, the kind of planes that rich people fly in, that technically is a flying car, if you think about it.
Exactly though. But what I'm saying is the more commercial idea of a much more smaller compact vehicle that runs on less fuel, less. It would have to run on something sustainable, something easy that people could produce. It can't be an airplane, although it is a modern flying car. It's not exactly yet a hovercraft. The idea of a hovercraft is that it can sit in your garage, fly it out, and you fly into the sky. When the invention of hovercrafts come into play, they will then have to create. Firstly, they can't just say hovercrafts exist. First, they have to create an air lane. So instead of a roadway, there'll be an air lane, and you'll still have to apply to the rules of the air. You get what I'm saying? There's certain developmental issues that come with it. It's not that it already doesn't exist. It does exist. The hovercraft exists, and they've actually built the hovercrafts big enough for a person to sit in the middle and for it to float up. It's possible. It's all
Now-
about developing the rest of it. Yeah.
Now, for me, speaking of what you just brought up, is this hologram, right? Now, I believe I was watching something, I think on the news on TikTok or something, about some guy in Europe who's actually built the model car plane, and how they're just now waiting for they're testing them out to see how they would drive up in the air. And speaking of smartwatches, I think it's a smart move because, the Jetsons had the big screen TV for video calling like Skype or Zoom. They're the smartwatches. I think the Simpsons, for me, are that group who, look, there's so many conspiracy theories about the Simpsons. There's conspiracy theories that they can predict the future, they know what's going to happen in the future, or warning us about the future, or they've seen that they're even time travelers. They travel through time.
We'll get to them.
We'll get to that in a second, but I like the idea of how they've informed us about when we were younger, smartwatches. And I remember going, oh, this will never happen. It'll just be, even if it does, it'll be a passing fad. And, but
I think Lisa is correct when she says that everything that the Simpsons have effectively produced or predicted is just upgrades of what we already have. So we've had watches for years.
Exactly.
We've just upgraded them, right? And there have been phones before. We used to put them in the wall, and now we have mobile phones. And then we had dial-up modem, and then after that we had wireless.
And that's what I'm saying. If the Simpsons showed us a tomato that somehow turned into a robot and did all of our tax or something, that would then be the next invention somehow.
I think, Leon, I'm gonna talk about this because this is your favorite and my favorite. You have to admit, the Osaka flu, COVID-19, the Osaka flu.
Yeah, I had that one in my books too. Amazingly enough, that was what I believe it was from Marge in Chains. I believe the episode was, where what happened is the flu got out, and they called it the Osaka flu, and I believe the headline was a dinosaur on The Simpsons was a dinosaur with one of those water thingies on his head and having a thermometer in their mouth, and they called it the Osaka flu.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that was going to end up being predicted that it happened in 2020.
But do you know how it was Japan, not anywhere else. Like they actually tried to warn us that this is going to happen,
That it was going to come from Asia.
that it's going to come from Asia of all places. I mean, tell me, guys, all of you, are they time travelers? Do they know what is actually going to happen or what is happening?
So I think
Like,
what the Simpsons have effectively done is they've actually looked at things like the bubonic plague or the Spanish flu, and they've gone, well,
Exactly.
it's not so much of a reach that there might be an illness coming because the human bot we've built up all these immunities to stop all these illnesses, but at the same time there might be something we don't have an immunity to, so it's not too much of a stretch to say there might be a cataclysmic illness such as COVID-19. But they didn't call it COVID-19, they just call it the Asian flu or the Japanese
Exactly
flu.
there. And if they knew that they were going to call it COVID, I guess they would have referred to it by COVID.
Yeah.
another one that they predicted, and I'm not a Game of Thrones fan, I've never seen one episode, but come on, they took the Mickey out of Games of Thrones. Leon, come on, we all know that one.
Well, to be like yourself, I haven't seen an episode of Game of Thrones, but I remember. I think the episode might have been called The Simpsons or something, if I remember right. It was like the Game of Thrones episode, which was widely praised for their spin on Game of Thrones.
Also, guys, you should know this. Lisa, when Homer sits down on the bed with her and he's reading her Harry Potter book, and Greystash dies, talk about the guy Dumbledore. Like Greystash is Dumbledore. Did they predict that?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, sorry. Well, everyone knew Dumbledore died and they replaced him. Another Dumbledore died. But Lisa, did they predict Dumbledore? Do you think they actually did?
No.
Like Greystash, who does not love Greystash?
Especially when Homer's crying at the end, all the way through at the end. Oh, Greystash.
You know,
Even
I
like
do.
Marge going to sleep and he's, oh, Greystash.
Do you know one thing I know that they did predict was there was something called Truckosaurus, right? And they had Truckosaurus in the cartoon, and about, I think it was a month later, during the Royal Easter Show in the 90s, Australia did actually have a Truckosaurus. And I thought that was so cool. And I also thought the one that was also really, really cool was the fact that when The Simpsons created the Dome cartoon during the Simpsons movie, and then within a few weeks, there was like a Dome series that came out, which I thought was hilarious. So they've actually not only predicted technologies, but they've also predicted television shows as well.
Guys, here's another eerie premonition or prediction. The submersible, Homer's paternity coup, where he meets his British father and they go down these Titan submersibles and Homer gets stuck. Do you remember that episode, Lise?
Yep.
Unfortunately, all too well. Unfortunately, that was the one. I think that, and as far as all the predictions that we know of, this is probably, I would be the most saddest one and the most recent one. Unfortunately,
It's possible that going back to that second one that you mentioned, in regards to COVID-19, and in regards to what Phil said, it's possible that the writers of The Simpsons are, number one, historians. Number two, they could be geographical people who know how to lay out geographical patterns. I think that would most likely be on their team to make these type of predictions and make their writing interesting. It's possible that they heard about this mission. There was obviously, before this mission happened, before the submersible happened, they've already been down in the submersible before. It's possible that they heard about the submersible. They had one of their engineers read about the technology that this person used. The engineer said, oh, one day this submersible is made out of carbon, blah, 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 blah. That's actually not the best product to use on a submarine because blah, blah, blah. One day, it might implode, and then therefore they make an episode out of it. Do you get what I'm saying? They predict things based off of logic in a way. Like, for instance, if you heard about someone creating a spaceship, one of your assumptions could, or let's say they're creating a rocket. One of your assumptions is that they're going to explode from the rocket fuel because they don't know how to balance out the correct water pressure that they need to cool it down. They don't know how to create any technology with that in regards to that type of stuff. That's a logical assumption of that. I think that's what's happening here. They heard about the people in the submersible. They heard about the company. They made an episode about it even before that, the second time that they went down, not knowing obviously that they would implode, but obviously they didn't make it look, in the episode they could have had anything happen. The submersible could have caught on fire, but in the episode they get stuck down there. Do you know what I mean?
In the episode,
there's a realness about to their predictions, and I think that they use a lot of logic when applying these type of episodes.
I think also they've sent someone down with basically no aquatic experience, and if they didn't have any sort of aquatic experience at all, which is ironic because Homer Simpson has basically no aquatic experience, then
He's a man of many trades.
there is a really high possibility that something would go wrong. And they've demonstrated that in the cartoon, which is ironic because when the other submarine, the real life submarine, got stuck, they screwed up because they had virtually no real aquatic experience.
Yeah. The other big one I think you guys are very early familiar with, Donald Trump's presidency in 2016.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest one. And again, I believe that they could have somehow caught wind prior to him even applying to, enrolling in, or declaring that he's going after presidency. There obviously must have been a talk for, let's say, 1 or 2 years before he even said, "Oh, let's build a team and put together a presidency." There's obviously talks. You know what I mean? There's obviously, he communicates with this person in Parliament, or this politician, or he communicates with this oil rigger, and then that word of mouth spreads, and you hear from word of mouth, "Oh, Donald's thinking about running for president. He's been talking about it." I think that the Simpsons must also have someone a part of the inner circle of these rich people worlds, because they predict a lot in regards to celebrities and that A-lister type of world.
There was 2 episodes on Donald Trump's presidency. There was the one where Lisa Simpson became president only after Donald Trump became president. And then there was the one where Homer Simpson was looking at Donald Trump's hair going down the escalator, and they actually animated that off a real cartoon. But Lisa, you are actually correct, because the thing is, the Donald Trump was talking about becoming president, but then he changed his mind 3 times, and it wasn't until Obama insulted Donald Trump in the gala dinner that he had. Okay, that's when
birth certificate.
you're going to run for president just to piss you off.
I'll go you one better, Phil. You mentioned that with Lisa Simpson being the president right after Donald Trump. Here's another one. Here's another coincidence for you. Lisa's outfit in that particular episode where she's doing the inauguration speech, she's wearing blue and all that sort of stuff with these white earrings and stuff like that with the necklace. When Joe Biden won the US election and the inauguration happened, Kamala Harris was wearing the exact same thing that Lisa wore in that episode. Was it Bart to the Future?
Yes, I believe.
Interesting, but it could be a coincidence. Sorry, Kat.
Yeah, that's true.
Coincidence, or a prediction of Kamala Harris going from vice president to in the future becoming the president of the United States of America. And I don't mean to sidetrack, but there is, talks of Trump's mental decline and Joe Biden's mental decline. She has been asked this a few times, if he's not fit for office anymore, will you stand up and say, I'll do the top job? And she said, well, if it gets really bad, then yes. But her running, I can see her running maybe after he leaves office. I think she has a strong, powerful chance of winning. And if that's her prediction then that outfit was
I
not a
wouldn't
coincidence.
be surprised if Matt Groening's prediction would be the Lisa Simpson of the White House, which is effectively Kamala
Oh,
Harris.
Harris, yeah.
So
The other one I want to look at is which one was it? The Capitol riots.
that one was also interesting
Yes, I recognize that one.
because the guy
Remind me of the episode of when it happened.
All right, so there was a guy that was dressed up in horns and red and blue makeup and stuff like that.
He was an actor, I
And
believe. Yeah.
and he was an actor, and he looked really, really weird. But the Simpsons drew that character before the Capitol Hill riots, and it's so ironic that he actually showed up in exactly the same Simpsons attire. So I thought that if there's ever going to be a prediction, it's that guy.
I think the other prediction I believe came true, which was if you notice where the Simpsons are in Springfield, all of Springfield, not all of them, but majority of them are Republicans, and you can clearly see they vote Republican, they speak Republican, they vote Republican. It's amazing how you can get the Republican and Democrats in the Simpsons, and you would believe that Springfield is a Republican state.
But if you actually look at the Ralph episode where Ralph just is trying to figure out if he's
Republican or
Republican Democrat, and his response to that is Elmo, and he goes, Elmo's a Republican. He must be Republican.
That. As far as the episode that you're thinking of that had that Constitution one in it, was the episode The Day the Violence Died, which is when a bum successfully sued Roger Myers Jr., who was the producer of Itchy and Scratchy. And that's how that Bill of Constitutional Rights song came about. So there you go. Just a little bit of historian one there.
I think to be honest, I think they're kind of mixed. I think probably maybe Homer might be close to a Republican, whereas Lisa's probably close to a Democrat. So I think they might have mixed views.
Yeah.
And even Homer's mum is probably closer to the Democrats, which is very, very interesting. So I think they kind
of. You have to remember that Fox runs this, so at the end of the day, there's going to be a massive representation of American culture in there.
Yes, that's true. And there is a lot of Republican themes in The Simpsons, like holding on to guns, for example, and not wanting to give them up.
Yeah.
Interestingly, what I just said about Fox, right? This makes sense, right? So Fox News is known for reporting about false nonsense or dramatic type stuff that's not really news, and they over dramatize it, right? They somehow make news out of it. You get what I'm saying? And it goes viral. What if? Yeah. So there you go. So they actually have a whole other system, a whole news network to work behind them they'll probably use to work in writing The Simpsons as well. I would not disassume that they don't somehow mix together and talk about events and stuff like that.
It's like you ringing your brother, hey mate, what's on the news? And then
exactly. It's like, hey, Fox News, can you make Blue Shoes go viral, and we'll create a Simpsons episode before that so that Blue Shoes look like we created that thought? Sure, we can do that. And then
here's another election thing, right? The voting machines were faulty when Homer was voting for Obama and it went to Mitt Romney on more than one occasion. They actually predicted the faulty voting machines, and it actually, well, apparently, Rudy Giuliani was sued by Dominion, for saying, oh, the voting machines are rigged, it didn't go to us, blah, blah, blah.
I've got a hilarious joke about this very quickly. I wonder if Donald Trump gets mad at the writers of The Simpsons for not writing that into his episode.
I think he actually was. I wouldn't be surprised that episode to convince people that the election is rigged. So you have all these.
Imagine he's like, darn, if only Groening wrote that into that episode, I would have won.
Yeah.
Also, when Marge was running her Marge primary and Homer went, "I'm Rudy Giuliani. You must obey."
Yeah, that's right. You must obey me.
And also, you're talking about the election rigging. That was actually the first one I'd actually written down, to be honest. The original, when they introduced electronic voting, was back in 2012, and that's when the incidents first started happening in the same
Yes.
year where it actually happened. And from there, there's been constant reports of this kind of stuff. So that kind of technology is not. That's why if I'm going to vote, I'm going out I'm going out there with a pencil or a pen or whatever and putting my vote in.
It's
Yeah.
a shame Australia doesn't have voting machines because that could help determine it quicker.
Yeah, honestly, okay, I have to laugh at that. One, it would help it determine it quicker, but also there's ample room for it to be rigged. Okay, so I'm really glad that Australia does it manually as opposed to doing it like America does it, because there have been complaints about them being connected to modems. There's been complaints about them, people taking the hard drives and just deleting them and then going back and putting them forward. So paper stops all that, and basically they have to count them manually.
Yeah.
So yeah.
On a sadder note, I don't, this is a very sad note, that sad moment that happened. I was quite sad when I think they did predict Kobe Bryant's demise with, there's an episode where that school teacher or kindergarten teacher was asking Homer to paint her building sky blue, and the helicopter was flying and it thought it was the sky and it crashed right into the building, unbeknownst that that building was blue, and it merged in with the sky as well. So it kind of camouflaged, which made me very sad to watch because, years later, he's Kobe Bryant and his daughter who passed away in a helicopter accident. It's just those sorts of things like really, really freak me out.
Those type of predictions just, yeah, exactly. It makes you think, see, here's what's happening here. There's only an element of two things that could truly be happening. Actually, there's three. Number three is that they really are just getting lucky and predicting stuff. Number two is that they truly are time travelers or, psychics or something along those lines, or they have some sort of mystical understanding of stuff. Number three is, and this is the one that's going to be most likely correct, they either plan stuff behind the scenes, or they know people planning stuff behind the scenes. They know when things are about to happen. They talk with people. They have people around the world that get back to them. There's too many things that have happened now for us not to assume one of those three things. You get what I'm saying?
Like you said, you made a really good point, which was the Simpsons are directly related to both Disney and Fox. Yeah. So it wouldn't really be that difficult for them to have reporters and journalists on hand
all around the world. Exactly.
And
being a powerful company, they would obviously have powerful connections as well.
Yeah. What do you think, Leon?
I was definitely right. Sorry, there was a helicopter that just flight past and lost my train of thought. So that's why I had me.
Oh, guys, that is so strange that he just said that. When we were just talking about the helicopter scene, and then he's like, a helicopter flew past.
I believe that theory was debunked or something. I'm not exactly sure, but I think, to be honest, I think that would have been a very fine stretch, to link everything that happens in the world back to the Simpsons.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, I've heard that link, and yeah, I think that's. While
there's many predictions that they've come up with, I'm also assuming that there's many things that they've predicted that haven't come true, that we just don't hear about because they never came true. Do you get what I'm saying? There is probably thousands and thousands of things that they've tried to predict. I mean,
they predicted
a lot.
The movie and it didn't happen.
You know what I feel like doing? If I was like a parent, I feel like saying to my children, if I had children, and they did something stupid like, I don't know, something that whatever the Simpsons predicted, I would have just said, dude, you're an idiot. What's wrong with you? Didn't you watch The Simpsons? Didn't you think this was like a bad idea? You saw it
Bro,
on
the
television.
Simpsons told us 5 years ago about COVID. Come on.
No,
Buy the hand sanitizer in advance. Use your brain. They're giving us all the knowledge. Here's a freaky one for you: the three-eyed fish. That was
Yes.
one that I was surprised about, because that's like, how can you predict evolution, or even a distorted evolution, or a mutant, if you will? Do you get what I'm saying? It's just so similar to what The Simpsons is showing, that it
I was going to mention that because that was actually in my list. Now, what happened with that? I know they predicted it in season one, but it didn't really get exposed until 2011 in Argentina when a
uh,
fisherman caught a three-eyed fish,
yeah,
amazingly enough,
exactly.
reservoir near a nuclear plant. That is
Yeah.
irony at the best of it.
That is either some top research into understanding what happens to our biological evolution when nuclear is affected with our, structure,
Or just fishing near a nuclear
or they already knew these fish existed and put it in there, because that fish in The Simpsons is the most iconic cartoon fish in the world. I'll tell you now. The most famous cartoon fish is that fish.
thing is, right? Um, you know, having that in, right? I reckon that all the Simpsons fans would have just gone, you know what? I told you so. But what's more amazing about it is the fact that being countless DC and Marvel cartoons and comic books, that where all these really good, amazing superpowers happened from people who, just slam into toxic waste. And we were like, well, why didn't we do that? Why didn't we drink the toxic waste to get the superpowers like said fish that now has
Stop. I don't know how many minds has crossed to get bitten by a spider or drink nuclear waste, or don't. Children of the world, don't do it. Okay, don't believe it. I'm sorry, just don't, please.
all drunk or ran into the toxic waste Kool-Aid, and something freaking awesome has happened to them.
Also, let's get into the other fun stuff. Lady Gaga's Super Bowl performance, her outfit, her songs, the way she had the metal things on her back, making her fly around.
I had that in my list too.
Again, that's all something that can be that has to be planned in advance and written out and performed and rehearsed many times. I think that's something that easily could have been predicted. Them predicting the actual Super Bowl in it, though, was not something that that to me seems like the Super Bowl's rigged. That's it. It's 100%. Obviously, that's what it tells me.
I got something for you regarding sports. Just for reference, you mentioned the sports, you mentioned the Super Bowl. Here's one for you. The FIFA briberies. But now in 2015, right? The Simpsons did an episode called "You Don't Have to Live Like a Referee." Now Homer was actually an official, quote unquote, working for FIFA, and there was and there was some people out there trying to bribe Homer, and Homer wouldn't take the bribe. Now a year later, FIFA officials were arrested on corruption charges. So
Yeah. Again, I think that's a very common thing in the sport. That would happen probably every 3 years. Someone's investigated. Let's just put it out there. That's a common.
Yes, I agree.
Soccer, criminals, kind of World Cup. I think, the two, I'm sorry to say it, but the two go together in a way.
Okay, well, the fact that you got soccer hooligans, and massive amounts of brawls, and people have started entire wars over soccer, might I add.
Exactly. What makes you think they're not going to try and bribe the bloody guy that predicts everything or says the scores or whatever?
Also, the other thing I want to bring up in their prediction was, do you remember when Marge and Homer went to Canada for the Winter Olympics for their sweeping?
Yep, I had this one.
She predicted the Americans winning gold on the sweeping.
I have this one. This was actually on one of my thingies here. The episode was called Boy Meets Curl. Now what happened is Homer and Marge took up the sweeping, just out of randomness, and it would have happened in 2018, where America beat Sweden to win the medal there. So there you go.
Okay, here's a question though. Were they versing Sweden in the episode?
Yes, they were.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out that America actually used to be the worst country when it came to football or soccer as they call it. And for some reason they managed to beat Sweden, which was
But this is sweeping, not soccer, dude.
No, but it's curling. But the thing is, right? They wouldn't have known that,
curling.
Yeah.
and they wouldn't have known that. That's the thing. And another thing they also did. Oh God, what was it that they predicted? I was just on the tip of my tongue.
Everything.
But oh, now it's left me. But yes, the other thing they predicted is when they went to Boston because they won the Super Bowl there, and what's his name?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady was part of the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't know if he's from Boston, but that was another thing. Like Homer was refusing to become a Bostonian, and and that good-looking quarterback was Tom Brady.
I think that must have broken his heart when he
Well,
found out.
come on, Simpsons, you can't fool us. We're diehard fans here.
All right. Here's one for everyone. The tiger attack.
Ah, yes. That was on my list.
Now, again, that one is a logical assumption. That's like saying for Steve Irwin, obviously we all assumed that one day he would be attacked by an animal. That was a logical assumption that everyone thought. Possibly, that could happen. Maybe it's a logical fact. Think that two men that work with friggin' lions is going to get mauled one day. That's logical. Am I right? Come on.
Ironic thing about that one, the ironic thing about that one, Luna, is like the attack happened in The Simpsons. The attack happened was a white tiger that attacked the parody of Siegfried and Roy. Now, the ironic thing, and by the way, this happened in Las Vegas in The Simpsons. The ironic thing is it was a white tiger that attacked Roy in Las Vegas. So there you go.
Yeah, but a white tiger was part of their act. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's actually interesting that, okay, so we all know that tigers are very dangerous animals. We get that. But at least we would have assumed that these were tamed animals that weren't actually going to do things like that, that they knew what they were doing and that they weren't going to abuse these animals and they were going to love and care for them and whatever. And it certainly appeared that that's exactly what was happening. But that white tiger that lashed out, it lashed out because it was being abused. And that's what happened.
So it's a wild animal. The second that it feels any sort of aggression towards it, it's going to attack straight away. It doesn't matter if you've known it for 30 years. You know what I mean? It's scared. That's it.
The other prediction I had was Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson going up into space together. Richard Branson's rocket, that they both went up into space together, or Richard went by himself and Jeff Bezos went by himself as well. How cool
Again,
is that?
maybe Amazon, Fox. I feel like those two might have some business deals together. That might have been a buy-in. That might have been a let's make this news go viral. Richard Branson purchased some sort of, something from Matt Groening or whatever it was, and they wrote it in. You never know, but he could have maybe they were discussing it one day over drinks. Oh, I'm going in a rocket soon. What are you doing? Oh, I'm going to write it into a Simpsons episode. So again, that one could possibly be explained. I reckon that he would be possibly talking about that one in his inner circle for a while before he even started making plans to go.
Just on that one with the Richard Branson in the space, that was actually in the episode The War of Art. Now, Richard Branson just happened to be in space in 2021. That's when that actually took place. Anyway, back to you guys.
Like there's so many predictions that just came true, that like the thing that's we did already talk about this, but the eerie thing that got me was when I was little years ago or younger, and they talked about when they did the episode for the Osaka flu that we talked about, I never thought in my wildest dreams that this would ever happen on planet Earth. Like when I was younger, I thought, oh yeah, this is funny, you know, it'll never happen. And we
Well,
it
no,
ha-
but it has been predicted that when the COVID came out, I read a study that said that scientists predicted this flu to happen like 5 to 6 years ago, because apparently every 40 years there is a massive flu that takes out the world. And it happens every 40 years or something like that. Or maybe it wasn't 40 years, but it happens every so many years or so. And they believe that it's some sort of geological or geographical pattern of some, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's some pattern of some kind, to predict, you know, and they say there will be another flu one day.
like
Well,
we
there's always new strains of flu every winter.
like
Exactly.
COVID actually came into being in like I think the late 60s, and what they did was they didn't know what to do with it or what to call it. So they just swept it under the rug, because back then in the 60s they didn't have the technology that we did. Yes, they were advancing, but not as fast. But the thing is, if you notice it, right, that the Spanish flu happened 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And
It had nothing to
But
do with
that's what evolution is, yeah. It's much more easier for a disease or a particle or an atom to evolve than it would be for a whole being like a human or an animal. However, it's not impossible, but for instance, a disease that's been stuck in the permafrost for millions and millions of years, let's say, for instance, they defrost it and it's exposed to sunlight of 32 degrees for more than 6 minutes, it could somehow then release some sort of toxin into the air that is unknown. You know what I'm saying? It's not that it doesn't exist. It just hasn't had the physical elements to mix with them yet to make them viral like that. COVID, 100% always existed. It just needed the right person to come along and eat that animal or touch that thing and then pass it on and, you know, mix it with its own DNA, mix it with its own salivas and stuff like that, and therefore create the actual particle that creates the disease.
how do you know?
intelligence.
Like, I was trying to have a fun conversation. I went fun serious. I'm like, how does she know all of this? What the hell? Like, I want to
You're,
like,
you're looking at the conspiracy theory queen right now. Okay.
like, are you some sort of
I am
professor?
5,000 years old.
You have to, you know how else they predict? Like, it happened many years ago, but Ozzy Osbourne biting into his Grammy and blood spluttering out.
That was a parody of when someone threw a
The
bat up on the stage
yeah,
while Black
the
Sabbath did a tour, and Ozzy Osbourne bit the head off it, thinking it wasn't a real one. And if I remember correctly, Sharon called him an idiot. Well, quite rightly so.
I just watched the whole thing about that, funnily enough. But yeah, that was not a great moment in history.
No, but on The Simpsons, he bit off his Grammy and it started bleeding out. It's like,
Which is a parody of the bat incident. Yeah.
yeah, like
That was after the sit. But so let's just continue on with that one while we're talking about the Grammy. By the way, that award, if I remember correctly, was the best the best thrash metal heavy metal crossover went to the Simpsons Christmas Boogie, and that's when he bit the head off the Grammy.
Oh gosh.
Here's a sad one I actually noticed is when Bart Simpson basically bought the magazine that had $9.11.
yes,
I knew about that one. Yep.
Next door to
the World Trade Center.
the World Trade Center, and we had 9/11, and that I think
It's creepy.
is a creepy prediction.
I had that one on my list.
I didn't have that. On
Definitely one of the more creepier ones.
What happened was that the episode was the city of Homer versus New York. And what happened was Lisa held up that book which said New York, and it had $9, and then right next to it had the Twin Towers. So basically, that's where the 9/11 came.
Is this the one where Homer gets the car boot thing stuck on his car and he's got to run between the two?
Yep, it was. And that was also when he drank about 5,000.
Hey, speaking out quick. Oh my God, my brain just clicked. That freaks me out. Oh my God. Okay. He runs between two buildings.
Yep.
Yep.
You're thinking of the trade centers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
World Trade Center.
Yeah.
Smart.
That is. Woo, that's a big one. See, You see that? That tells me that someone had knowledge that it was going to happen.
Oh no, I'm not believing that.
Either that, or the writers of The Simpsons are somehow some sort of mystical energy receiver from all the psychics that are out there in the world, and they were somehow sending a message through his brain, and they were just like, yes, not write $9, and he didn't even know why he wrote $9. He just did it by accident, and that was actually the god sending a message through him to us, possibly. I don't know, but that is messed up. The fact that there was two towers running between them, the newspaper, the amount of money.
They could have put $8.11, but they didn't do that.
Or
They
$6
put-
or $5, $3, $1, $2, $3.
I believe that thing was supposedly on a.
And I
clearing
think it's
house.
funny that two towers make up 11.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was creepy as.
And the fact,
Sorry, go
go,
ahead.
no, go.
Oh, okay, no problem at all. You remember there was an episode called "They Saved Lisa's Brain" where all the smartest guys, all the smartest people in Springfield were running the town. Now, Homer had a little conversation with Stephen Hawking about a donut-shaped universe.
Yeah. Okay, I read that one too.
In 2021, I checked this and I read up on this one. Astrophysicists put forward a scientific theory suggesting the universe is shaped like a three-dimensional ring that loops back onto itself, hence would make a donut-shaped universe. So there you go.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah.
Again, that one's been theorized about for a lot of years in the scientific community. They just never had the equations to support their theory. So I'm guessing that when that article was released, that someone had, used all everyone else's workings, put it together, and somehow was able to prove that that was a possibility.
Episode of The Simpsons.
Yes, that's just come back to my mind is when they predicted the Nobel Peace Prize winner on The Simpsons. So that's one I forgot about, the Nobel Peace Prize winner. They actually predicted that on The Simpsons, where the Simpsons kids with Martin, with the other guy with the not Millhouse, and the other Brainiac kid, and then they had the bullies, and they're all sitting down, and they are like picking the Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Oh, yeah.
Are you talking about Martin?
I don't know. It's a different one. It was a different one. It was a different one there, Luna. But the episode that I remember was, and this is the one you're going on, was Lisa had figured out that what is it, vegetable oil, vegetable spray or vegetable oil, whatever, was the key to render a bully.
Sweat. It was sweat.
Yeah. To disable a bully, yeah.
It was sweat, not vegetable oil. It was sweat.
It was sweat, but
Disgusting though. Yeah.
well, I think that's all, folks.
Wrong cartoon.
Sorry, guys.
You know,
I guess
what?
that's as far as the predictions go in our brain.
Yeah. But if anything, the only thing that's ever going to scratch my mind is, are these people actually, can they see through a looking glass? Can they predict the future? Are they able to predict the future as in time travelers? Have they seen anything? Do they know? How do they come up with? I know you said they have to. Oh, one more thing before we forget. One more prediction. Fox buys Disney.
Yeah.
Fox
Again, that's something that could have easily been in the works for many years, and they made an episode before it happened. I mean, Fox literally creates the show. So why, if they had a deal with Disney in the scenes and they knew it was going to happen, would you not just put out an episode before that predicting that you're going to buy Disney, and then 2 months later, surprise, we bought Disney? No, you didn't predict it. You already knew 2 months ago, and you just tricked us.
I love that. That was the best joke I've ever heard, that one.
Said Fox buys Disney, and then they go, no, wait, hang on a minute, Disney bought us. Damn it. We screwed up the prediction. What happened, guys?
Hey,
Peace Prize
sorry, I want to say one thing, guys. It's funny enough, okay? I have a particular episode in my brain that I always think about, and this is the real true. If this ever comes true, then we know the Simpsons aren't lying. The episode where Professor Frink's father comes back, and then he gets everyone's brains and he's putting them inside the robot machine that's keeping him alive, and he keeps changing and he's building all the different parts and shit. He's putting, he's got Sideshow Mel's head, and he's got like Ned Flanders' mustache and stuff like that. If that ever happens in real life, then we'll know, okay? We'll know they're not lying.
Well, I just like to make another prediction. So in The Simpsons, Ned Flanders actually takes on the role of the guy from Breaking Bad. So if Ned Flanders ever becomes a drug dealer, then we'll know that they've made another prediction.
Hold on, hold the phone. In an episode, I believe, called Midnight RX, that was when the Simpsons. That's when the nuclear power plant cut off the health plan, and they went to Canada to smuggle drugs in. And Ned Flanders was actually a part of the Simpsons crew that went over there to smuggle the drugs.
That's right. They took his RV.
Yeah, they did that one too.
Here's my prediction and the final question to you all. As much as we do love The Simpsons, there has been rumors flying circulating that The Simpsons may or may never end. Will The Simpsons end?
Well, here's the thing about The Simpsons. The Simpsons have been sort of sold off to Dubai. So they have like an Islamic version of The Simpsons where they've basically allowed almost like a franchise, if you think about it, where all the Simpsons, they have all the same Simpsons characters, except for little tweaks. Like, for example, instead of
a Catholic church, it would be a Islamic mosque.
If instead of Homer Simpson drinking beer, he drinks ginger beer. So they made little tweaks to that. And I had a friend of mine from Dubai and basically said, I've seen those episodes and they're crap.
Yes, don't
So,
forget.
but nonetheless, they will continue The Simpsons will go on.
Yes, but The Simpsons.
Al Shamshun, that's what it's called. Al Shamshun.
Yeah, don't forget The Simpsons also are in Canada. And Canada, I don't know if they actually put the proper version or they do their own voices. Because apparently the guy who voiced Homer in The Simpsons Canada passed away years ago as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they've replaced him. But will The Simpsons ever end, Leon? I mean, all of us are Simpsons fans, but do you think that they will run out of material or they will just keep going until they can't talk about anything else?
I think obviously, the line, all good things must end. You know that I believe it's got to at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if say the season 36 or season 37 will be the last. It has to end because it just becomes a parody of yourself when you're trying to think up different material, and it's hard to do after 35 seasons. And I say 35 seasons because we're now into season 35. I mean, you can't really go much longer. Now, obviously, during the time that The Simpsons has been around, we've actually have lost some original cast members from The Simpsons. The Mrs. Krabappel, I can't remember her name. Julie, I think was it Julie Kavner? No, Julie Kavner, I believe is Marge. Sorry. But you get one of the main characters, Edna Krabappel, the lady who played that voice, died about 10 or so years ago. And it's you start that starts going into your head. It's like, how long can we go for? And also in recent times, they've started to replace voices.
Like Apu, you don't see Apu much anymore.
You're right. He's gone, and also was it Carl Carlson, the Simpsons character, his voice was replaced a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The thing is,
Dr. Hibbert,
if I was to make cartoons, and if I started getting pressure to replace with gender, what's the race based, I would have cancelled the show myself.
Can I say something? The Simpsons have literally made enough episodes to be able to be replaced by a computer. They did that. Look, I remember when on South Park, Chef got replaced because he didn't want to be part of the show anymore. But Chef was such a major character of the show. So what they did was they just got all the episodes that they had recorded and then used each syllable or each sentence and then recycled those sentences and those sounds that he would make, and then kind of made an electronic version of Chef, and no one knew the difference. And I think there is enough stock material for The Simpsons just to keep going. The question is, will they write more scripts? Will Matt Groening go, okay, we've written enough scripts, sell it to someone else, or let's just end it from here? I'm not really sure, but I think if I was Matt Groening, I would basically either sell it off or just end it.
I think that, I mean, they were touted. I think they said their last episode should have been when Bart and Lisa see into the future and they're all grown up, and you see Marge in the kitchen using her cookie gun thing, and she's making the cookies from the recipe, and it's like a Back to the Future thing. And Lisa has a daughter. I think that's when they were supposed to like literally end The Simpsons. That was supposed to be the last episode ever. But because they want outstanding cartoon and outstanding cartoon series, then they thought, okay, we've won. We've been signed for another 2 years. We need fresh material.
Exactly.
I mean,
the way the industry works is this. You create a TV show, okay? You run your pilot. If the pilot's successful, in its showings, in private showings, obviously not on TV and stuff like that, then you'll be committed to a full season. Once that full season goes to air, if it's popular enough and it hits there's I remember learning about this in high school. It has to hit, I think, 1/3 above how much it costs to make or something like that in revenue for it to be picked up as a listing again. The Simpsons will keep going as long as they keep getting the views. The reason that it's gone for 35 to 36 seasons is because they consistently get the views. They are bringing in a massive revenue for the entertainment industry. They are bringing a massive revenue for all the people that work there and all the people that work in even, things like tourism or merchandise. There's so many avenues that span off The Simpsons that will exist even after the show stops filming. But the only time that show will ever stop filming is when it's not popular anymore. That's it.
So, I actually went into a shop in Newtown in Sydney, and I remember they just had boxes and boxes and boxes of Simpsons merchandise.
Exactly. Now that person, that once The Simpsons stops filming, that person is actually investing in a time-safe investment. That merchandise will 100% increase as the years go by. The Simpsons will always be an iconic show, and the merchandise will slowly stop being produced once the show ends.
Like, this is just my opinion. Please don't come at me, but I still watch The Simpsons, the old stuff. The old stuff is funny.
Same.
The stuff for me, I'm sorry to say, don't hate me for, but it's a bit dark. It's really dark, and I just don't.
It's 100% different writers now. There's no chance that they have the same writers that they had from 30 years ago. It's not possible.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I sit through the whole episode or the whole season. But the thing is, you don't get a laugh out of the whole season. You smile, but you smile going, what's this about? Like,
it is pretty serious.
It's pretty serious. It's dark. The voices are thrown off. It's very difficult to understand. Like, I feel like it's just, as Leon said, because the woke movement happened and they had to remove iconic voiceover artists for other people. Even fans are saying that they've gone too far. They'd stopped watching because it's just outdated, not funny, too serious, too dark. It's. I love The Simpsons as a longtime fan. I'll continue to watch the older episodes, but the newer episodes just don't make me laugh or smile like the older episodes. The episodes from 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Can I say something? I remember when they had the episode where the entire family went to group counseling, and they hooked everyone up to an electric.
And they should have stopped though. That's hilarious.
And here you've got Marge Simpson trying to punish Lisa but at the same time by shocking.
Everyone, yeah, just
And then what's Maggie doing? She's just pressing the buttons randomly.
oh,
The other thing
You
that
know,
confused me
but-
was, sorry,
But what I was going to say is that the original episodes, like the first season episodes, they were different because they were about family values, and now that they've had some great progression, it's more about the political geo.
I think it's time that they either progress them in age a little bit. So Maggie's now, let's say 5, Bart and Lisa are 15, 16, and they create episodes based off that. Or what? What would be a great progression right now?
I think
just
basically.
end it. Just
Okay,
end it.
well,
Possibly a new character, a new
No,
reoccurring character that we've never seen a new character on The Simpsons before.
They did that with Pokemon after the Ash saga ended. What happened is Ash. Spoiler alert: Ash finally won the big one, and they ended Ash's run with Pokemon, and they faded him out in one episode, and a new character came in. And the series is still Pokemon.
Pokemon is doing so well right now. That's the funny thing. It's doing so well with the next generation. And that's what they need to do for The Simpsons, because The Simpsons is our generation. Slowly, the younger generation not going to bother about The Simpsons. Let's, true.
but let me say this. The thing that annoyed me was at the very beginning, they had Dr. Marvin Monroe. We don't know who that was voiced by. And then years later, Marge writes her salacious book about her affair with Ned Flanders, in whaling times. And then Dr. Marvin Monroe suddenly, because they all said, oh, he died, Dr. Marvin Monroe died, and they showed his gravesite. And then all of a sudden from that to Dr. Marvin Monroe suddenly, showing up out of nowhere. It's like, didn't he die?
That's a cartoon for we haven't seen in a long time, Dr. Nick. I've not seen him in a long time.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
That wasn't too bad, was it?
Oh, it was.
Wrist was connected to my wristwatch. Oh no!
And the other thing that bothered me about this is Poochie, when they killed off Poochie, again, 2 times later, they showed Poochie in the Itchy cartoons. It's like, well, it's been tested, but it's
not even that.
But the whole Dr. Marvin Monroe really, really frustrated me because, they said, oh, they didn't say, oh, we retired him. It says, oh, he died because he was ill. And then they bring him back up. It's like, what are you trying to tell us? Like,
actually,
they're trying to tell us it's a cartoon and it doesn't have any make sense for rhyme or reason because it's a cartoon. If they want to put a talking apple in The Simpsons.
Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week for another different topic. This has been the Simpsons predictions. Thank you so much to Lisa and Leon and Buckets. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let us know what you think. Until then, see you next week.
Bye. Love you.